Good evening, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So in this video, we are going to be talking about how it is that knowledge is power and what it is that you can do with the understandings that you have about the current situation that you are in so that you can make the best and most appropriate decisions for yourself. Now, right here at this moment as we speak, we have all kinds of confusion that has taken place within the Federal Reserve's monetary policy and what it is that people feel is taking place with the idea that the Trump administration is going to be firing these Fed officials and then putting in whoever he wants within this inside of the Federal Reserve so that he can get his way with interest rate cuts. And so when I think about some of these things that are being like pushed out there through the mainstream media and what it would actually take in order to achieve the things that Donald Trump is threatening, and they don't line up. It's not accurate at all. Now, something I find very interesting, and it took me a while to find my video, but I got a link for it down in the description. And this is a link to how it is that the Fed officials are chosen to make it to the FOMC. Now, it's a 3-hour long video, but it's only the first 10 minutes of the video that is actually the information with links down in the description of that video. So now if you look at this video that I'm doing right now, there is a link in the description to the video that I am referring to, and it has pretty well spells out in about 10 minutes exactly what it is that's going down in order for a Fed official to make it to the FOMC. So I'm going to leave that video public for the next 24 hours. If you want to watch that video for the first 10 minutes of it, that's all it really takes. The rest of it is pretty much a discussion. It's a 3-hour long live stream like I normally do. You'll have access to all the links, the ones that I use to share the information, and then you can internalize it as well. Because once you have internalized that information, all this propagandized ideas of what has taken place out there within the mainstream media narrative will completely vanish. It will disappear. All the debates, all the people that are out there talking their smartness, they will all be discredited. Every single one of them. And you will be making decisions for yourself based on your own ideas and knowledge of what it is that's taking place within monetary policy and what's happening within the Federal Reserve. So many people out there had kind of got this idea that somehow Donald Trump can just all of a sudden just wield power that he doesn't have. And to me, I think to myself, man, this is a very naive approach to dealing with your retirement, with your investments, when your business, anything that you got going on in your life. When you think about it in this way, you are completely delusional to the realities of the situation. But when you go and research and do it for yourself, so I leave a link down in the description, a dozen Federal Reserve websites that explain how it is that the Federal Reserve picks and chooses the presidents, the governors, and essentially the members of the FOMC. Now, are they approved by the president? Yep, they sure are. Right? I mean, he does have some say in which one of these few people who are in the system already of becoming a Fed president, right? He might have access to some of that ability to pick and choose. And so now understanding that there is not a credible threat that Donald Trump is going to fill the Federal Reserve with people who are going to change the Fed's strategy. It doesn't go down like that at all. Right? The Fed already stated the strategy. It's called the consensus statement. Right? The voting members of the FOMC will do their best to achieve that consensus statement. It doesn't matter who he puts in there. They all have a job to do, and it's to achieve the consensus statement. So as I look at how it is that monetary policy is conducted, it doesn't have anything to do with most of what it is that you find out there on mainstream media. The Federal Reserve ran out of monetary policy during the Great Financial Crisis. Many people don't realize that they had switched the way that they conduct themselves, and they went from being able to adjust monetary policy with the Fed funds rate to using forward guidance. Once they made that switch, they used it and never switched back. They do move interest rates, but not as a monetary policy tool. Can they? Absolutely. Do they? No. Right? Very rarely do you actually see them moving monetary policy. After the great financial crisis, they were stuck at the lower bound for close to 10 years. They didn't move monetary policy at all during that time. They had a monetary policy. It was forward guidance. They used forward guidance to adjust monetary policy, to increase and decrease the financial conditions of tightness, or restrictive, or easing, however you wanted to look at it, you know. And so when you see these things and when you look at it for yourself and you realize, man, when you think about how it is that people have internalized information from the mainstream media narrative in order to conduct themselves, and you think, man, this is the reason why this country is so messed up. Okay? If they have no real understanding and they are in assumptions and they use their beliefs of fear and anxiety that is riddled within the statements and the communications, what do you think is going to be the results of something like that? I mean, for one, they got the information inaccurate, they're scared as hell, and they're making decisions. What do you think the results would look like? I mean, maybe something like we got today? Just, out of curiosity? And here you got a handful of people who essentially know what's going on. I mean, it's not like it's not hidden. I mean, I talk about it all the time, right? I have links constantly. I put out video after video of the credible threat theory to try and share what it is that's happening out there. So it's not like it's hidden, but why does it seem like it's a secret? I mean, the secret is in keeping it secret. Don't tell them that we're using flexible average inflation targeting. Do not make that the mainstream media narrative. If you don't make mainstream media narrative understand the flexible average inflation targeting, there's no way they're going to understand why monetary policy is looking to achieve inflation that was moderately above 2% for some time. That would be completely out the window. Nobody could possibly understand that. But that's what was going on. Jerome Powell just admitted that in the speech that he gave on Friday, and the change in the consensus statement now has a new belief and understanding of the strategy, and most people are going to miss it. So I share again the power and the power in knowledge, in knowing ahead of time what it is that's taking place. I did a video 9 months ago that explained exactly how it is that a Fed official is making it to the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee, the channels that they have to go through in order to achieve that. Understanding that 9 months ago gives me a whole lot more stable belief in understanding how it is that the Federal Reserve is going to be conducting themselves going into the future when people are in fear that Donald Trump is going to fire him and replace him with whoever he wants. It doesn't go down like that. It doesn't work like that. He may get to pick whoever he wants out of a few chosen people. Here you go, Donald Trump. Would you like choice A, B, or C? Eh? And at the end of it, he'll be like, well, I choose A because I really don't know what the hell I'm doing anyway. All right. Lisa Cook is my dream woman. F Trump. I don't know, man. All I'm getting at when it comes to that, here's the thing. If Lisa Cook did wrong, right? If Lisa Cook did wrong, before Donald Trump would even have the cause to do it, the cause within itself would eliminate her position. Like, he can't say, oh, I got cause now, you're fired. She would already have been eliminated because of the cause within itself. You get what I'm saying? It was like, he's like, oh, I'm going to fire her as soon as we got proof of evidence that she did wrong. And it was just like the proof within itself would fire her. Like, you don't need the Donald Trump to do that because she would already be eliminated because she can't legally be there if she committed fraud. Right? So it's just like the whole idea is just complete falsery. I don't even know how to, this artistic fantasy. It's like I don't understand how it is that so many people can focus in on that and say, "Oh man, Donald Trump has the power. Let's debate about whether or not he has the power." And I'm thinking, you do realize we're talking about a private bank here, right? I mean, he doesn't work here. Yeah, that's like, I mean, that's what the Federal Reserve could say. It's like, Donald, you're, whatever, bro. You're not here. You don't work here. Okay. We got our own deal. And if she committed fraud, she will be fired immediately anyway, just from the cause within itself would not allow her to be here. You don't have to say a damn thing, dude. He's trying to take power for something he really doesn't have any power over. It's like literally being the bank's biggest customer and then saying, hey, I'm going to pick and choose your employees inside of there. Now, the bank could bow down to their biggest customer or whatever because they might be living in fear of them, or they could be like, go screw yourself. You don't have any other choice but to use us, and we're not listening to you. All right? Because that's really what it is. All right. Thank you so much for the $1.99 too. All right, here we go. Trump fired Lisa Cook 6 times today. I think that's a record. Is it 6 times? He fired her 6 times in a day? All right. I'm just enjoying the show called The World Stage. Yeah, well, to me, I don't sit around waiting for stuff to happen, right? I mean, stuff happens. You're gonna have to deal with it when it comes. But when it comes to like understanding the Federal Reserve, and they're like, "Oh, Donald Trump is going to," and I'm like, "Okay, well, that could be a good credible threat. Maybe we should figure out how it is that a Fed official is really chosen." And once you figure out how a Fed official is really chosen, you're like, all this talk about Donald Trump coming in and just doing whatever he wants, it doesn't work like that. The mainstream media doesn't know that. I mean, their narrative is just like completely screwed up. They got everything wrong. There's not a single thing that I can find when it comes to monetary policy that comes from the mainstream media that is accurate. Nothing. However, if you step back and you look on how it is that the mainstream media deploys information, and then you think about how it is that the Federal Reserve uses information in order to conduct monetary policy, all of a sudden it's a really useful tool to create a easing or tightening of financial conditions, because that's how it works. They control the expectations. If you can control the expectations, you control everything. So now the mainstream media narrative is literally just a propagandized machine for delivering monetary policy messages. And those messages will ease or tighten financial conditions, and specific sentences will be quickly incorporated into asset prices. They know this. This is not me saying this. This is all coming from Philip Jefferson, who's a voting member of the FOMC. So once you know it, once you have the knowledge, once you see it for yourself, and you're like, okay, all these people seem to think that they know how it is that monetary policy is attempting to get to a 2% target, and the Federal Reserve is going to be adjusting interest rates to do it, and this is going to ease financial conditions, and I'm thinking, no, they're not. No, they're not. That's not anything that they're going to do, right? That is the lamest thing I've ever heard. That is so 20 years ago, I can't believe it, right? Because that is not the way that they conduct themselves any longer. That is the old school mentality of how it is that the Federal Reserve would have operated 101 from a long, long time ago, prior to the Great Financial Crisis. Because after the Great Financial Crisis and the effective lower bound of zero, the ELB, the monetary policy broke. It was broken. It was broken. It didn't work no more. And they're like, oh God, well, we're out of tools. We don't know what to do. We're stuck. And Ben Bernanke was like 6 years earlier. It was like, no, we're not. You got to understand that there is so many ways that we can deal with monetary policy that doesn't have to deal with interest rate adjustments, especially when you're at the effective lower bound of zero. Don't be so lame, guys. Ben Bernanke stepped up and he was just like, hey, we can use something like this idea of a guy who invents a gold machine. And with this gold machine, he can produce as much gold at will with very little cost or energy. And the moment that information gets out to the public and is scientifically verified and proven that he can do this, The price of gold when on the market would plummet immediately before the guy even produced a single ounce of gold, even before he had the machine to do it. The credible threat alone would be enough to move markets. That was what Ben Bernanke described as the monetary policy tool. Credible threats. That's it. How well and how deep can they drive the message into you? How easy is it for them to do it using the mainstream media propagandized information? Once you see it, once you know that they're doing it that way, you step back and you go like, okay, what are they delivering? And all these people start talking and they start ramping up their ideas of what it is that's happening. And all these talking points get delivered through the mainstream media. And I'm thinking, I wonder if that's going to ease or tighten financial conditions, this message that they're delivering out there. Because that's what they do. They don't move interest rates. They don't move their Fed funds rate. They talk about it. All right. Gosh, I'm just going off here. Okay, grab your popcorn. November is right around the corner. I'm just enjoying the show called The World Stage. Huh? Do we run? Nobody's commenting. Okay, politically motivated BS. Really interesting to see this go down and how markets react. How markets reacting. Yeah, for sure. I mean, let me see if I can. There we go. All right, sometimes I got to refresh it to get the new comments up. Absolutely. The I don't know. Like, again, like I'm trying to stay focused on the topic here. Knowledge is power. When I think about what it is that I had done to try and position myself the way I am, and I'm thinking, I don't have a college education. I don't have business. I don't have family money. I don't have anything going on that would give me any kind of abilities or idea that being an average everyday dude would give me the ability to acquire the things in my life like this. Have a house, be able to, pay my bills on time, which I think is just the best part of the whole thing. Right? Is that it? I mean, everything else, like I do care about everything else, but man, that was like, that's what does it for me the most is being able to pay my bills on time. And to think that there's so many people out there who are struggling. And I think to myself, okay, well, let me share what it is that I have seen and done with my life in order for me to acquire what I feel is getting some sort of a reasonable belief that I'm acquiring that of the American dream. Right. And as I start to share that with people, I get a lot of resistance. Right. People say, oh, dude, you just, you're part of the elitist. You're part of the problem and all kinds of stuff out there. And I'm thinking exactly how. I cut back on my expenses, paid off my debts, tried to figure out as much money as I could do to get in. And then I started deploying that into a return on my investments while driving the cheapest cars possible. And I share that information with people and then they call me evil. And I thought to myself, man, that is probably one of the reasons why we have such a desperate people who are watching the inequality push them even further and further away. Is because of that belief. I mean, I think to myself, man, when I was a little kid, I used to watch that show, Little House on the Prairie. Right? I thought that show was awesome. And I thought to myself way back in the day, oh man, that Charles Ingalls dude works nonstop. Like every show that dude was doing something, he was working. He's out there in the damn barn under a lantern working on a wagon wheel or something. He's out plowing. He's working down at the mill. He's doing everything. He's doing everything. Why? Because if he didn't do that, they weren't going to survive. Right? You think about it, it's like, man, that kind of mindset, like, that doesn't exist nowadays. If they didn't have any other choice, there wasn't anybody showing up, right? I mean, it was like you starved back in the day if you didn't handle yourself right. There was no welfare, there was no entitlements, there was nothing like that happening, right? That mindset was just like, no, if you have an opportunity to work and acquire and get more and store and save and produce and you were awake, you went for it. You did it the entire time, nonstop. They'd be sitting there like having a fire, about ready to go to bed, whittling on something that they could possibly sell into the future or whatever, right till they went to bed. Right? There wasn't leisure time. I mean, their leisure time was actually planned out. It was like, no, well, okay, we'll take a break from work and then we'll go. Yeah, That was the mentality back in the day. People have lost that. That doesn't exist. And so I think, man, it isn't really that hard to compete against people who don't have that mindset. I mean, if they don't have it, then how hard is it to compete against those people? It's like really almost non-existent. Yeah. All you have to do is just put out the effort that they're not doing, and then bam, all of a sudden you got stuff. Right? You got ability, you got investments, you got the time even. You know? All right, $5. Hey man, I have 200K CD which will mature this week. How would you suggest I invest it? I'm 54 years old. Man, that is so difficult. See, here's the thing. I would love to give you an answer for a single individual who's 54 years old with no family, no possessions, no tie downs, and say, hey man, what I would do with $200,000 is way different from what I would think you would probably do with it, because me personally don't want anything like that in my life to have possessions. Like, I don't want to be tied down to anything. I don't really want to own anything. I would much rather just enjoy experiences. So for me, I would figure out a way to deploy that $200,000 into something that would pay me some sort of monthly return, and then I would grab me a backpack and a tent and I would bail out. And I would just wait for that money to just come in every month. And I would fish and I would camp and I would go hang out with friends and I would do that kind of thing. I hope you have fun with that, because that's my dream, all right? That's what I would do with $200,000. But are you talking like what I would have to do, like if you gave me $200,000 and I have this family and I have this house and everything, and you just handed me $200,000, I'd probably drop it right into the house because I never really expected it. And if I could drop $200,000 onto the principal of this house and think of myself being that much closer to being done with it, then that's probably what I would do, right? Because I don't want to be handed $200,000. I don't want to win $200,000, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I want $200,000. I would love for somebody to just hand it to me. That's not. I don't want to get the $200,000 by winning the lottery or having somebody win it. I want to earn it this way. I want to achieve it at the appropriate time for the skills that I have put out there, for the benefits to the other people who are being gracious enough to hand it to me, or at least hit the thumbs up button. Right? See, that's the way I view it, because I don't know, at 54 years old, do you have a wife and kids and stuff like that going on, or are you just a single individual? Do you have a retirement plan? Do you have stuff like that? Or are you just asking me how it is that you can make the most money with $200 or $200,000? I mean, there's so much that you could do with it. The real investment would to do something that would give you the skills or the abilities to acquire even more than what the $200,000 investment can do. You know, starting businesses, doing all kinds of stuff. There's a million things that you have so many opportunities with. And every single person is going to look at it so much differently. You know? All right. Why do people need a house if they have no kids? You know, I can understand why I know people who own a house and they really like it. They really enjoy working on it. They like the yard. They like being there. They have their dog. They have their fireplace. They got their hot tub there. And it's just them and they just like it. Yeah? And I can totally get that. Like, I mean, they don't want to live in an apartment. They don't want to live next to neighbors. They don't want any of that stuff. And they like tinkering and doing things, on their property. So it's all a personal choice on that. Do you need one? Absolutely not. You don't need anything in your life. Right? I mean, I think around and there's this stuff you really need. And I'm like, ribeye, music, and a view. That'll do it. Thanks. It's just like, I don't like the wanting, needing. There's an abundance of everything in the entire world, all available to you anytime you want it. You just have to believe that it exists to you and that it's not in scarcity. And if you don't believe it and you don't feel it, then it's always there all the time. I mean, it's hard for people to internalize that because they've lived in such like either in poverty or a limitation or just a scarcity or lack of abundance. Like, I don't know how you can think of it for yourself, or if that's the condition that you're in. But there's a lot of people who grew up and they don't really understand that there is a different way of thinking about it. And that's what's really kind of weird, is that once you do see the switch and you do feel it and you think back to it, it was just like, wow, man, what a difference in the way that I was thinking about it before and the way that I think about it now. Like, I didn't think about it the right way. And I know that's really hard, because people want to watch a single video and say, well, just tell me what it is that I need to think differently. And it's not. It's in here. It's like a subconscious thing. It's the fact that you are a victim of the circumstances of your upbringing, with the movies you watched and the TV shows and the family and the music and all the other stuff that you had heard. It then gives you this feeling that, man, all this stuff is very lacking and it's difficult and it's hard and it's in all that. And really, when you think about it, abundance is easy. Scarcity is hard, right? Scarcity is hard. Just take an example of wanting to catch a fish. You're there at the stream, right? And if you are just like tossing it in there, and like every cast, you're just blasting them out of there. It's just like, man, it is just easy, man. It's just like nothing to it. You don't even have to really try that hard. Look at it, right? It's just coming in. The abundance is easy. You got all these fish, and it just came really easy. But say you cast those lures out there 100 times, and you never caught a fish, and you switched your lure 30 times, and still there's no bites, and you're up and down the creek looking at all the different fishing holes, and you're trying to find where it is that the fish are hiding so you can get at least one fish, and it is so hard. And then when you finally do get it, you're just thankful. You're like, man, finally, it was so hard. I got one fish. All right? It's because abundance is easy and scarcity is hard. All right? Most people, this like everything in their life, scarcity, and they live a hard life. Everything is hard about it. They make it hard because they don't really think about it being any other way. Here's an example of it. I never really found the opportunities manifesting into my realities from what it is that I felt that I could really do with my life, because I had already made the decision that I was going to be drunk at that time. Think about that, right? See, scarcity is really hard. I had to actually plan to not do it. There was all this complications with drinking. It was very difficult, right? And I said, I can't do that. I can't do it. It's too hard. See, I could have just said, don't drink, and show up to the meeting. That's easy, right? And then you have abundance. People don't think about it that way. They think showing up to the meeting is hard, right? Working for the beer, getting drunk, trying to figure out how it is to conduct yourself. That's hard. All that stuff is very difficult. It's hard, and it shows when you have lacking, right? Scarcity is a result of it. You show up every day. You just go to it. It's just as easy to show up on time as it is to show up late, right? Everything is easy. You show up, it's easy. Abundance is there. Opportunity is there. It's like there's nothing to it. People make it hard. And they literally do it because of the way that they were raised or feelings that they have about it, right? Something is like tying your shoes or sweeping the floor and stuff like that. It's like, these simplest tasks that people then find themselves overwhelmed by, right? Because it doesn't need to be this hard. It could be that easy. Everything is that easy. But nobody sees it. It's because it's literally because of the way we were raised. I know, because I used to think this way. I used to think everything was very difficult and hard and difficult to achieve, and it proved it. I proved it to myself too. All right, moving on. Oh my God, vodka cranberry at Flamingo in Vegas, $19. Hey, didn't we have that same comment yesterday? All right, hence the phone and generator you mentioned. Did you selectively read my comment? Okay, all nighters talking to somebody there. Okay, dude, it's just plain diminutive slavery using money as the whip. See, now here's the thing. Now, if you truly believe that, how is it that you're going to successfully find yourself in a position in which that you are not feeling the stresses and the frustrations and the tensions of being this debt slave, monetary slave, government slave? Like, what is it that is going to take in your life to get to a particular level that says, okay, maybe I don't feel that way anymore? Because ultimately, if this is the way that you feel right now, there is going to be nothing in your life that's going to change that then gives you the feeling that says, man, I'm living in abundance. I have the abilities. I can do this. But once you get there, you don't look at it the same way. But if you're looking for an excuse for the reasons why you're in a depressive state, oh, you'll find them. Oh, I can show. I mean, I was the king of pointing my finger and saying, you're the problem out there. Right? I was the best at it. In fact, you think about it, I can be kind of entertaining, right? That's probably one of the reasons why I have a popular YouTube channel. So can you imagine what I could do with the entertaining thought of, like, taking on a negative tension, frustration, stressful belief system that is then deployed out there using conspiratorial mindsets? Like, I could kill it out there on the internet. Like, I mean, I know I could, because those type of videos do quite well. When you start triggering people and you start making them fearful, and you make them, like, in a point that they have to listen to every word you say, or else they may miss that little bit of information that is going to protect them from the hell that they're about ready to experience, you can make a lot of money doing that. Like, that's how come, like, newspapers have these crazy headlines and stuff. And I've proved it to myself. Like, if I'm looking, like, literally, it's one of the most manipulative things I think I do here on this channel is put triggering titles. And I do it for the views. Why? Because they're worth more, right? Like, I can have the exact same content. Nothing changes about what I say. I present all the information. I'm the same. I mean, I don't change about anything, but I could be a very descriptive title, or I can be a fear-mongering title, and it will be the difference between making $30 or $130. Like, what are you going to do, right? I mean, I'm going to be the same, but if it takes triggering titles in order to get the attention so that the information can get spread out there, and then I have to deal with a little bit of troll factor when it comes to the comment section because of it, then I guess that's what I have to do, because I'm not sure what else it is. You can be very descriptive and very informative, and people do not care about that. You have to be very, very interested and very committed to the idea in order for you to be, like, willing to watch the video. So I have 3, 4, 5,000 people who are that way. But if I want 20, 30,000 view videos, or even better yet, 300,000 view videos, then you got to start triggering them, and feed into their emotions. Let's see here. It was about 2.5 million for me. I could no longer be motivated by scarcity-centered arguments, which is 99% of all the information provided. It really is. I mean, it's kind of sad, but it's unfortunate, because most people, like, even the people who have acquired a lot in their life, still feel the scarcity mindset. And that's something that I find kind of interesting, is that even people, like I said, who've made millions of dollars, they're so, like, oh God, now what do I got to do to hold on to this million? They're still in scarcity. No matter what, it was like a scarcity mindset that motivated them to acquire the million, but it doesn't matter. Having the million didn't get them out of the scarcity mindset. Now they got it. They're worried about losing it. Right? So they never felt the abundance, not even after they have it. It's because they never had it to begin with. It's the feeling inside. Like, whether you have $1 million or don't, the abundance is the feeling inside that you have. It's not the reality of out there, because the reality is the abundance is already there. That's the reality, right? It's just people can't feel it. And if you don't feel it, then it doesn't exist. Not even the guy who has $2 million that he worked damn hard to get, but he used a scarcity mindset to get it. And now that he has it, he's still in scarcity mindset. And he can't, and now he's scared to lose it. So it might as well not even be there. I think this is the transparent phase of fascism more detectable. America is corporation owned by fascists using capitalism with a dash of communism. Unfortunately, we have no constitution left, and Democrats will have the opposite authoritarianism next. Well, Kirk, I disagree with that because the Constitution doesn't really rely within the government. It relies within you in your ability to protect the Constitution at the time of the infringement. It's not up to government. That's the problem, right? People like that in itself. That's the problem. It's not government's responsibility. The fact that that statement is even made is just more evidence of the fact that you in yourself have not taken responsibility for your own constitutional beliefs and how it is that you're going to protect them, because I don't feel I've lost my constitutional rights. See, a constitutional right can't be given to me. It can't be. I already have it, and if I don't know what it is, then it doesn't exist. And the fact that I do know what it is, and the fact that I do know that it exists and how it is that I can protect myself at the time, or at least hope to be able to protect myself at the time of the infringement, I have a constitutional right. Everybody else may or may not have them, because there's really nobody who comes out of the woodwork at the time and says, you know what, oh, stop here, everybody. I think there might be a constitutional issue going on, right? The only person who can say that is you, who has the infringement happening to him. That's it. Nobody else is going to do it. So there is no constitution in this country, not because of the government, but because the people themselves have chosen not to care. And that's the unfortunate consequences of this. And I don't mean to pick on you, bro. I really don't. But it's really the mindset that people have about the Constitution within itself. It's not government's responsibility. It never has been. Okay? And the fact that we don't take responsibility for ourselves and the idea of what it is that the Constitution means to us, and how it is that we make our votes on who it is that is going to be the elected leaders. If we don't understand any of that, there's no way there's an elected leader who's going to be anywhere in the realms of the constitutional mind. So you're right, it doesn't exist, but it wasn't government who did it. It was us. We did it. We accepted the fiat currency, and we accept these elected leaders. It's not their fault. It's ours. All right. Lisa Cook is a work of art. In what way? Like, does anybody have anything to say about what she did at the Federal Reserve at all? I mean, like, I could go back and look at some of the speeches and stuff like that I have read about Lisa Cook. She doesn't really talk a whole lot about monetary policy. She definitely talks a lot about the integration of, if I remember right, like inclusiveness, as far as like how the different social societies get together and, do their financing and stuff like that. I mean, I don't see anything in there that she could ever possibly be looked at and said, oh man, you're the most evil FOMC member ever. I mean, there's nothing she don't even talk even remotely close like that. Like, I mean, you would have to pick on like John Williams, maybe Michelle Bowman, Christopher Waller might step up there a little bit. If you go back, ways, you could pick on like, Clarita. What is it? Clarita? Yeah, I can't remember his name. Anyway, there's a few of them out there that were, like, hey, man, those are the guys. Those are the ones who light up. Lisa Cook, she was like so mellow. She was just like, oh, Aunt Lisa, like, All right. They already did it with the mandatory shots, the essential. I'm sorry. The mandatory shots? Who did that? What mandatory shot? That doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, nobody showed up on my door saying, here's the mandatory shot for you. Like, that didn't happen. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. The volunteering of the COVID so that you could keep your job, right? You do realize that job isn't a secure job. Like, it's not your job. That's a job that you and the employer have chosen to agree to facilitate the difference between trading time for dollars, right? But that's nowhere near anything that you are like entitled to, right? there are certain rules and regulations to how it is that you are hired and how it is that you can be fired. But ultimately, if they have a rule or regulation that says, hey, you're going to have to take this vaccine, then guess what, man? That's part of the job. All right. Now, I personally told my boss, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. Right? I'm not going to do this thing. And if I have to go, then I'll go. He didn't say anything about it, didn't tell me anything about it. He encouraged me over and over and over again to please do it for the safety of everybody there, for all the things. And I said, everybody here got vaccinated. Right? I said, I don't know what it is that I would be protecting anybody from. All right? In fact, the way I see it, they're protecting me. All right? Because apparently they can't get it, which was an absolute horseshit thing, right? So I just think about it in this fashion. It was just like, I know and understand that this is a mutual thing that is happening here. I agree to show up and trade my time, and you agree to give me some dollars for it. And once this relationship doesn't work anymore because you have, specific expectations, and so do I, right? And because if these two can meet, awesome. If they can't, then we have to part ways. That's all there is to it. So we volunteer every single thing that we do. We volunteer to use the fiat. We volunteer to get vaccinated. We volunteer to pay taxes. We volunteer to get the driver's license. We volunteer everything. And anybody who doesn't think that they're volunteering that is absolutely incorrect. You volunteer it all. You just don't feel it. You just don't feel like you do. And that's the difference. Yeah. All right. Lisa Cook isn't that attractive. Yeah. All right. That's not really true because you can't survive. Because you can't survive. That's the point. You can't survive. I don't know what you're talking about. All right. Ain't and won't allow to drive without one. And won't allow to drive without one. Yeah, I think you and All Nighter could probably have a conversation about whether or not the legalities of travel exist still today, and the case laws that exist that now give you the understanding and the power that you need in order to travel unrestricted. Once you figure out how to do that, how it is that you can own the conversation, how it is that you always ask questions, and how it is that you deploy information that has already proven your case. Once you figure that part out, you're going to realize, yes, you can drive without a license, you can drive without insurance, you have a right to travel unrestricted. Right? If you're not doing it for commerce, you can have it to a whole nother level. In fact, you're going to have to understand that you are not doing it for commerce, that nobody's getting paid for this experience. Okay? Their jurisdiction lands in a whole realm of corporate powers that people assume are just these laws. They're statutes and ordinances. There's a whole difference to it. Once you figure it out, once you learn it, once you know it, don't get me wrong. I have a driver's license, I have insurance, I pay my taxes, I do all the stuff just like every other person would do. I don't have to, it's voluntary. You know why I do it? Because it's a hell of a lot easier than trying to live in a true, free, sovereign society. Right? Everybody else pushes against it, and I have to think to myself, you know what? I know what it is. I can conduct myself as close to the edge as I can. And I try to. I won't even cross the street unless the sign says it's okay. You know why? It's because I don't want to have to explain myself to a police officer. I don't want to have to identify myself. And if I'm not committing, or about to commit break a law, then there's no reason to have a conversation with anybody of any authority, ever. Not one. Knowing that to be the case, I can walk through this world with feelings of freedom. Because the moment that somebody says, hey, sir, where are you going? Let me see who you are. What are you doing? And I'll be like, I am not answering any questions. And unless you can articulate a crime, I'm out of here. Thank you, Anthony and Billy. Safe and effective. do have to respect is legal notice. If they don't have ID, oath of office, and proof of insurance, they have no legal notice. See, he can make the cop prove themselves before they can have any authority over you. They have to have these particular bits of information. They aren't required to show them to you, but you can request them. And at that point, they are not required to show them until you are requesting them. That's what I should say. Once you have requested these things, they are and demanded upon them, they have to prove it, right? But they don't have to just go and say, hey, I'm this officer, all this other stuff, unless you ask. All right. Easy money everywhere. Thank you very much, Rusty Dollar. I appreciate the $9.99. Well, I one of the things that I would really like for people to really internalize for themselves is that they have to know there are people out there doing exactly what it is that they are wanting to do. To know that it exists. There is an energy, a feeling of existence, of being that does exactly what it is that you want to experience within your life. And it's not that you have to change anything that you are. You have to relinquish. You have to surrender, right? You have to break down the walls of restriction that you are holding. That will allow the energy to come in. See, it's already there. That's the problem, right? That's the problem that somebody says is it's like, well, I can't find it. It was just like, you can't find it because it's already there. You can't go and search for something that already is in existence right in front of you, right? So there's no possible way you can go looking for it if it's right here, right? The problem with it is that people can't see it because they have built up walls to say, oh, but this, and this prevent it from being there, right? And once they have relinquished that and they say, okay, man, all these restrictions are not there, then the energy flows in. But most people don't know how to do that. And I know that sounds like crystal gripping and hippie and all that other stuff, but that's essentially what happened to me, right? When I was thinking about the things that were restricting the money from coming to me, and most of it had to do with a negative attitude about the world and a very conspiratorial mindset, I have built up the walls, right? Once I had built up the walls, there was nothing that could really get in. There was no opportunities. There was no flow of money. There was nothing. Actually, there was a buildup of debt, right? That was the other thing. There was a buildup of more negative, consequences from it. Once you break it all down, all of a sudden, everything started flowing in, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get this now, right? I'm starting to get it. I don't get it, but I'm starting to get it. Yeah. Let's go check out some of these super chats real quick. All right, we got City Star Productions with the $4.99. Can you elaborate on how the Fed will use inflation and employment on two timelines? Okay, well, I think the idea behind that one is that the two of them, there was a time when the two of them will be somewhat like in line with each other. Like, if inflation was running hot, it was probably because unemployment was falling, right? And so raising interest rates would be the appropriate move for these two things to bring inflation down and to kind of get the unemployment to rise a little bit in order to slow down the labor that was contributing into the economy. So these two would generally work together, right? So if you move the unemployment up and down, right, from above or below the neutral level of employment, if you can move it up and down from that, then that would start to mess with the inflation, right? So really, the Federal Reserve, although they had the dual mandate, they were more focused in on employment, right? Whether or not they can increase or decrease the employment that was taking place within the economy, because then that would result into the inflation. So by focusing in on employment, they were able to create the monetary policy that they were expecting, which is an easing and tightening of financial conditions. Okay, so, or in the inflationary pressure that comes from it. So once they found that if they took unemployment to historically low levels and it was consistently there for a very long time, the rise in inflation didn't take place. So now the Federal Reserve was just like, oh crap, part of our dual mandate's sort of broken here, right? Because when we drop unemployment, the inflationary scenario should take off, which would then make our, the ability to then adjust monetary policy to combat the situation appropriate. But they had monetary policy at zero, unemployment was zero or was really low, and inflation, which should have been high, and then them having the ability to combat that with the rising of interest rates, didn't go up. And so now they're like, oh crap, what do we do? Right? Like, we got to slow down in global growth. We got to slow down in economic activity. We got to slow down in everything that's happening here. We can't seem to really stimulate the economy because we're at the effective lower bound of zero. We're stuck here. Right? And this was the major problem. So, let me go back. Sometimes I get to rambling, and okay. So back to the two timelines. So now here you got the unemployment that can just run hot all the time. Like the unemployment can be historically low, tight labor market, and the Federal Reserve can look at that and just say, well, can we just keep it there, right? Just keep that in that condition, regardless of the situation. Because even if it's a tight labor market, it doesn't create the inflationary scenario that it used to do 20 years ago. This is one of the reasons why everybody has the Federal Reserve, the understanding of the Federal Reserve so messed up. It's because that's how they used to operate, is that they would look at that labor market, people working, and how that would actually bleed into the inflation. But it doesn't do it like that anymore. So here you got the dual mandate, which is part of it is to keep people in full employment or keep really low unemployment and then keep low and stable prices. Well, that part, that's not going to be really part of their focus anymore. It's just going to be on the inflation sort of thing, right? So now as people might say, well, this is a tight labor market or it's a weak labor market, that sort of concern about that particular is not going to really bleed into the inflationary scenario. So as people are going to say, like, you're already seeing it, oh, the labor market's going to force them, it's going to force them, all this other stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, unemployment is still historically low, right? Like, has anybody else noticed that? Like, all this crazy slowdown, economic layoffs, closing of business, all this other stuff, and we still have historically low unemployment. I mean, I know people are saying, oh, dude, just give it some time. It's about ready to pop. And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, but if you had already kind of taken into consideration the recessionless recession, which was, again, the theory that I had come up with, that the corporations were already bailed out and we wouldn't see a significant rise in unemployment, here we are, right? And I'm thinking, okay, so corporations didn't get the bailout, lots of layoffs, lots of zombie corporations were failing, but unemployment isn't rising significantly. I wonder who called that out, right? I mean, I don't know how many other people knew that, but I mean, I got plenty of videos out there called the recessionless recession where I said that same thing like 2 years ago, all right? 2 or 3 years ago. I don't even know. So again, understanding that the timeline that they are looking at to restrict or increase the inflationary scenario is now off of expectations, right? Because it's the tariff and the credible threat of tariffs that is raising the inflation expectation, which is essentially keeping the inflation moderately above 2%. Well, that's eventually going to ease, right? The tariffs will work their way through. Whatever tariffs are going to, create their price increase, most likely there's not going to be any more credible threats of tariffs after this, right? After, the situation, once the dust settles, so to speak. How long into the future that goes, it could be anybody's guess. I mean, I guess it depends on how much power they want to get out of it. But since this is now creating the inflation, right, the credible threat of it, the Federal Reserve really doesn't move, right? You have to just wait for the credible threat to fade away, and this will bring the inflationary pressures down. So again, like, they're not looking at trying to deal with employment and inflation on the same timelines. And they're like, that's kind of doing its thing. Tariffs, how long does that work out? This is more of the inflationary concern. You see how they're looking at it differently? Like, we're going to learn more about how this is going to really be playing into the strategy as the speeches come out. Because again, they just switched this consensus statement. So there's not a whole lot of speeches out there that have incorporated the consensus statement into them as far as what it is that the voting members of the FOMC are believing and thinking about as far as their opinions on monetary policy. This will come. Like, we're going to learn more about how it is that they view employment, or the low unemployment not creating inflation. We're going to learn more about that as the speeches go on, because this has been pretty evident since the great financial crisis. Yeah. Many years now. All right. Oh, excuse me. There is a difference between right to travel and right to drive. Right one puts you in jail as soon as possible if no license registration exists. You're absolutely correct about that, but it's not just that. You also have to understand that there's a lot more that goes into it. In something as simple as understanding, like, the manufacturer statement of origin on your vehicle, right? See, like, manufacturer statement of origin of a vehicle is really the birth certificate of the car. What most people end up having as a title is a certificate of title. It's a thing. It's a certificate. That means that there's something else that's certified, or it certifies that there is something else out there, right? Certificate of. So the certificate of title is actually a title of the manufacturer statement of origin, which essentially went to the state, got put on microfilm, then destroyed, and now a certificate is put in its place. So the state actually has some interest inside of this vehicle. Now you're required to register and insure and have a license and follow the state rules and all the other that goes with it. But to know that there is an existence in. All right. The only reason why driving is a privilege is because there's a bunch of communists who believe that. All right. Can the Fed use a time machine to deal with with two different timelines? No, I think, I mean, I don't know if you misunderstood it or if you're just, just trying to go on, but they're not really looking at employment the same way anymore. And they're looking at inflation as an inflation expectation. So if the tariff, excuse me, so if the tariffs and the credible threat of tariffs is going to keep the inflationary pressures going, then that's the timeline that they're looking at. The unemployment, that is different. If that starts to get out of control, then they will adjust monetary policy or their speak or whatever to deal with that. So now the inflation is them kind of going back and saying, okay, well, what is the expectations going to do? Because it's not them and their lowering of interest rates that is creating the inflationary pressure. It's manifesting out of credible threats. So if the credible threats are creating the inflationary pressure and the unemployment is not really getting out of control and is still historically low, I don't believe their monetary policy through interest rate adjustment is even messing with the dual mandate. Like, their interest rate adjustments is not affecting the dual mandate in the sense that it used to. So now the dual mandate is dealt with two different ways. One of them is dealt with expectations, and the other one is literally just kept an eye on to make sure that it doesn't weaken, and it just stays pretty much tight from now on. And I don't know, deliver message and then allow this one to just be in that condition, and if things change, deal with it. Is that going to make sense? I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. Okay. $5. Cook needs a dual mandate, not cut crypto boom. No cut equals crypto boom. Oh, I see. Well, I wouldn't. I mean, here's the thing. If you really want to know what the Federal Reserve is going to do, just think about where the neutral interest rate is. Now, the neutral interest rate is a rate that is neither accommodating nor restricting the economy, and the Federal Reserve has said many times they want to be at neutral. They think they're very close to neutral. They don't know exactly where neutral is, and there's only estimates of neutral, and they say that it's not that far. Now, what I heard in the speech was a lot of other people heard. Other people heard that we are 100 basis points away from neutral. It's not what Jerome Powell said. He said we are 100 points closer to neutral than we were a year ago, which means that we may still be 200 points away, 100 points away, 50 points away, or we might be right at neutral, right? Because we're 100 points closer than we were a year ago. Now, I don't know what we were a year ago. I think we were somewhere around 2% neutral interest rate, while the Fed funds rate was up around 4.5 or whatever it was at the time, 4.25. As time moves on, the neutral interest rate has risen. It could be somewhere around 3%. The Fed funds rate is somewhere here up around 4%. The dropping of 100 basis points may put the Fed right at neutral. That's what a lot of people believe. That's what a lot of people are thinking. That's what a lot of people have internalized. That may not be that far off from the truth. Time will tell. All right? Now, if the credible threat of tariffs have risen the neutral interest rate from last year, wouldn't they continue to rise into the future? Just a guess. Like, if I'm thinking, okay, we had credible threats of tariffs last year that has risen the neutral interest rate by 100 basis points, I would only assume future credible threats of tariffs would continue to raise the neutral interest rate. And if the neutral interest rate continues to rise, while the Federal Reserve is standing still in a wait-and-see pattern, it very well could be that the neutral interest rate will find its way to Fed funds rate, and the Fed won't have to move at all. Maybe they might cut a little bit, just to make sure that they actually land at neutral. But if they cut and the neutral interest rate continues to rise, they may find themselves in a stimulating economy, or a stimulating monetary policy, stimulating financial conditions, at a time when they weren't trying to get inflation to go up, but trying to get inflation to go down. Not a whole lot of people have internalized it like that. All right. Do we want to keep going, guys? We're about an hour into this live stream. We got 169 people who are watching with 100 likes. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. And for those of you who didn't catch the beginning of the video yet, I left a link down in the description to a YouTube video where I was describing and showing through the links of the Federal Reserve documents themselves on how it is that the Fed officials are chosen, and that it's not just arbitrarily done from an administration, but they have to go through a process. Now, I shared that video. It's a 3-hour-long video, but all the information is literally in the first 10 minutes of it, and all the links are provided in that video as well. I'm going to leave that open for public viewing for the next 24 hours, and then I'm going to make it a member-only video again. That video has been public for the entirety of it, but it's such an important video that at this point, anybody who's watching this particular live stream is going to have access to it for the next 24 hours. Go and watch it, internalize it, share the links, whatever it is you want to do for the next 24 hours. After that, you're going to have to pay $1. If tariffs are the main thing keeping the expectations up, I don't know if that's the main thing. I think right now it's the main thing. Will the neutral rate start falling once the dust settles? Yeah, so like the idea of keeping the supply chain broken. Like I had mentioned that. I can't find the video where I was talking about it. I've done so many videos. You know, you do 1 or 2 videos every day for like 5 years. It's like, oh man, where's that video I did? And it was just like, I don't know, like 1,500 videos ago. Like, how the hell are you supposed to find it? So I did a video where I had the suspicion that they were going to keep the supply chain broken. Now, I didn't know that it was going to be done like with tariffs. I didn't not think it would be tariffs, but I didn't know it was going to be tariffs that was going to break the supply chain again. I thought that they were just going to keep it broken through the channels of like, how do I say, like not allowing it to rebuild, which I guess they kind of did with the tariffs. So I don't know, maybe it was just like I should have just said it was going to be tariffs, I was going to do it. But ultimately, I said back in the day that once the supply chains start to come back, if they can break the supply chain, they can keep the inflationary pressures going. And now when you think about the makeup strategy, that would make a lot of sense. Not a lot of people would think that. right? They wouldn't internalize, like, why would you want to keep the supply chain broken? That's stupid, bro. Well, okay, if you had the makeup strategy in mind where the Federal Reserve would intently try to keep inflation extra hot, extra long for an extended period of time, then it would make sense to keep the supply chain broken. Now, they say in their speech and in their words that it was anything but intentional, like COVID was not intentional. And I'm like, yeah, no kidding, it wasn't intentional. You're not going to claim that it was intentional, but you also don't claim that it was a benefit to you either, do you? Because it wasn't it, Jerome Powell? Like COVID was the best thing that ever happened to monetary policy. Now you don't have to use your makeup strategy to get inflation to run extra hot, extra long for an extended period of time. You could just sit there and let the disease do it. Oh, oh, good one, bro. All right. So now that I think about it, if you can keep the supply chain broken through the credible threat of tariffs, right, then you can keep the inflationary pressures up. Now, of course, makeup strategy has come to an end. Right? We don't have this makeup strategy anymore, and the credible threat of tariffs is going to be fading away over the next 6, 7, 8, 9 months to a year or whatever it's going to take. Things don't move instantaneously. Like this monetary policy doesn't work in weeks. It works over decades. And that's the hardest part for a lot of people to really to think about, because you have to study it back so far. Like, how many times do I refer back to, like, Ben Bernanke's speech is where I like to start, because you got to have a starting point somewhere. I mean, we could keep going back if you want to, so that we can understand monetary policy in a more refined fashion on how it is that they used to conduct themselves and all the problems that they experienced, and keep dating it back further and further and further. But I thought, 2002 would be for enough. I mean, it was like, we're going on 25 years ago. So I think like a quarter century of understanding monetary policy will probably give us a good understanding of what it is that we need to do with ourselves. I mean, we can keep studying and get even better at it, but, I think this is pretty good. All right. Oops. All right. So once the dust settles, so yeah, then I think that, once the dust settles, like to finish the question, I think that that would start bringing the inflation down. And if it does start to bring the inflation down, then they're going to have to figure out a way, because it's going to hit the 2%, to try and maintain that 2%. Right? Because ultimately, they've never been able to maintain 2%. And maybe they have figured out a way. Like, they don't have to use interest rate adjustments anymore to maintain the 2%. They're using forward guidance and, like, not worrying about the unemployment. So maybe between that forward guidance idea and money printer or something like that, they could try and, like, hit that 2% target. But ultimately, I feel that they're probably going to end up missing it, fall below the 2%, and then try to figure out a way to create an inflationary scenario. Now, whether it's stimmy checks or something else, UBI kind of concepts that come into the future, I mean, it's anybody's guess, but I would assume that it's going to be something like that. They're going to force feed money into the people, because, again, the unemployment is probably just going to run historically low from now on. Your good job is going to suck. It doesn't matter how much, how much you try to throw at the lowering of unemployment. It won't create an inflationary pressure, because the people are essentially debt saturated, and it doesn't matter how much money they earn. They're never going to be able to compete against the top 20% of people who are the top household income earners, who are doing 70% of the consumption out there. It's just, there's no way. It's not going to work like that. But the force feeding of money into the people, I think that's a real concept that is coming, the UBI kind of thing. And the unfortunate consequence of that, it's going to be new money pouring into the system that's going to separate the rich from the poor even more, because that's the Cantillon effect. And people who don't internalize the Cantillon effect are going to suffer the consequences of it, because knowledge is power. All right. Sounds like the 80s big hair band. Gets my attention. It's going to be arresting people for prison labor. Oh, UBI. I doubt that. Jay Powell knows his time as Fed chair is coming to an end. Not that it really makes any difference. Do you think he cares about his legacy? No. All right. First of all, the Fed chair doesn't make decisions, except for his own monetary opinion on FOMC's consensus statement. Like, I mean, if you're asking about his opinion about how he votes for monetary policy, Okay, but I understand it a lot differently. And if people want to give him credit, like they gave Volcker credit or they give anybody else credit as far as a chairman of the Federal Reserve having some sort of power, then those people are absolutely clueless to how it is that monetary policy is conducted. To me, I don't care who the chairman is. That is the voice of the FOMC. He literally is a messenger. That's it. He doesn't make the decision. That is left up to 11 other voting members. He has his vote, don't get me wrong, and he has his ideas, and he shares his perspective. And there's 11 other people who share their perspective. And then there's 5 alternates who shared their perspective. And then there's 2 advisors who shared their perspective. And between these 19 people, they formulate the consensus statement, and that is the FOMC. All right? That's it. And to look at it any other way is inaccurate, because that's not the way it goes down. Yeah, there's a lot of little nuances and pieces and all kinds of, like, things that happen within it. But if you were to just look at it as the holistic picture of it, the FOMC has a chairman. He speaks on behalf of the other 11 other voting members. And then there's these 5 alternates and 2 advisors, and all these people come up with monetary policy. And then people say, well, what about Jerome Powell? And I'm like, that guy, the spokesperson, I don't know, like, did he tell a joke? No? Okay, well, I don't know. He's not that important. Like, he's gonna speak on behalf of what all these other people are saying. So maybe we should listen to what all these other people are saying. To me, like, after Chairman Powell, like, after Powell is gone, I will not think about that dude ever again. All right. In fact, I don't even really think about him that much now. I think about stuff that Philip Jefferson says, because I think he is absolutely giving it away, what it is that monetary policy is doing in order to conduct itself. Philip Jefferson, like, nobody even knows who that dude is. He is probably one of the most telling people out there right now when it comes to the FOMC. He has 2 speeches that he delivered over the last year or so that, I mean, basically just gives it away. Saying, hey, we're using communications to, alter asset prices and create financial easing and tightening conditions. And then he has a whole other speech that breaks it all down and says, hey, man, back in the day, we figured out that, words deliver much more powerful message and monetary action than interest rate adjustments. And he literally has a speech that talks about that. Nobody else I find talks about that. I rarely ever see Philip Jefferson in the news. All right. I mean, I remember Alan Greenspan and Ben Bernanke. Yeah? What do you remember about those 2 guys? What do you remember most about Alan Greenspan? Yeah? What do you remember most about Ben Bernanke, other than he was the quantitative easing guy? Eh? Oh, what else did he say? Oh, we got to secure to the subprime mortgages. That was the other big one, right? People remember that. Is there anything else? Did you happen to read his book where he talked about how it was that when monetary policy was going to hit the effective lower bound, how they were going to completely change monetary policy altogether and that it would no longer be conducted that way? Right? I mean, he had a book on that. Nobody else seemed to see that in the mainstream media, because nobody knows what the hell these Fed chairmen are. Right? They remember, like, do you remember Janet Yellen being there? Like, hardly anybody remembers that she was a chairman of the Fed. Because nobody cares. Nobody cares unless the mainstream media delivers the message for you to care. And that's what's sad about it. Right? See, like, I don't know how many people had gone and internalized or learned how it is that a Fed official actually makes it to the FOMC. But once you do, like, I left the link down in the description to the video where I shared with you guys, because somebody had asked me the question and I stumbled through it. I was like, okay, here it goes, guys. And I tried spelling it out as best I could, sharing all the links and everything that goes with it. And then once you have internalized that and you hear all this stuff out there on the mainstream media, it's like, what the hell are these people even talking about? Like, do they have any idea that they sound completely like buffoons when they sit there and, well, Donald Trump does have the power to fire Jerome Powell, and that will absolutely change the monetary policy. And I'm thinking, no, it won't. Even if Jerome Powell wasn't there, it wouldn't change anything about the consensus statement. This is stupid. Like, why the hell is this happening right now? And I'm thinking, oh, that's part of the monetary policy to keep people in fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That way their words have more power behind it. All right? And so it's all part of the game. Um, Inflation slowly transfers wealth from the masses to the few. Deflation slowly transfers wealth from the few to the masses. In deflation, oops, there's something. This is okay. In deflation, money purchases move from longer you hold it. Money purchases more the longer you hold it. Well, the problem that I think you're probably going to end up facing with this belief system is that low interest rate environment is an inflationary pressure, but it's not. It's actually a deflationary pressure. See, low interest rate environment means there's less capital less return on capital investments, and it's not a benefit to anybody out there, as the slowdown in the economy does not actually create economic activity, but is slowing the economic activity through the lack of return on capital investments, which is turning negative, and that's a deflationary environment. Now, if you start to increase those interest rates, what you're going to end up finding is that there's going to be a lot of economic activity that comes from it, as people are eagerly borrowing money to spend into the economy, and the people who are return on that money are eagerly spending that money into the economy, and this is going to have a result of economic activity happening out there in the economy, which is really kind of strange for a lot of people to internalize, but this is actually how Cantillon described it from hundreds of years ago. See, when you have a slowdown, when you have low interest rate environment, it's essentially showing that the economy has died. When you have high interest rates, it shows that there's a lot of economic activity and people are very eager, right? They're eager to find that money. They're eager to borrow it. They're eager to spend it into the economy to buy materials so that they can take part in what's going on out there. And most people are very confused by this. This is one of the reasons why you find most people who are at the suffering at the bottom of the whole economic spectrum, and then you have the top 20% who are increasing their wealth. And this is happening during a deflationary aspect. This is supposed to be like a lack of inflationary pressure that's coming from elevated interest rates and a slowdown in the economy. But there's a group of people out there who are absolutely killing it. It's not slowing down for them, it's increasing for them. Inflation was something that the Federal Reserve was absolutely desperate for. They couldn't find it. Quantitative easing 1, 2, 3, and 4 failed to produce an inflationary scenario for the Fed. It's easy enough to say money printer go burr, prices go up, what else do you need to know? But it's very, very difficult for those same people to say, well, I can't explain why quantitative easing 1, 2, 3, and 4 that took the Fed's balance sheet of $850 billion to over $4.5 trillion failed to produce an inflationary scenario. Why did it fail to produce an inflationary scenario? Because we were at the effective lower bound of zero. Low interest rates is a low inflation, actually deflationary environment. Right? All the quantitative easing, expansion of the balance sheet, didn't do it. Right? The belief, the forward guidance, the hyperinflation expectations that the people had from watching that money printer, that did create a little bit of inflation, but not enough. Right? It failed them. It failed them miserably. And as most people misunderstand how it is that the Federal Reserve is conducting themselves, they'll most likely make inappropriate decisions for themselves when it comes to their investments and retirements and everything else. I've studied much, and I've explained it so many times, day after day after day, coming out here, that there's really no angle that I haven't looked at this from a working class point of view. Don't wish for a gold standard. Your pain and misery would magnify if you weren't sitting heavily in gold and silver. And if you're sitting heavily in gold and silver, then you most likely don't want to see a total economic crash, because you would be forced to hold on to that silver, hold on to that gold through the most devastating times, because you don't want to give it up. You want to give it up when you finally have the opportunity to use it to advance yourself. But most people are going to give it away the moment that they get hungry. Because that's what most people end up doing. They hold on to this gold and silver thinking, oh man, when hard times come, if there's an economic crash, and I'll have this stuff to protect me, and then they give it all away because they're hungry, right? I mean, if you're starving and you're about ready to die from starvation and you have a box of metal, you'll dump that box of metal for a loaf of bread. I don't know how many people know that, right? Because most people aren't really prepared. They don't really understand economics, they don't understand currencies, and they don't understand what it is that they would do during a collapse. They think a collapse is some sort of benefit to the poor. It's not, right? What happens is it really concentrates the wealth to the top, and they have even more at the end of it. My wife and I have been increasing our income since I started watching your channel. I have been given hope, and I understand I can still do better. Thank you for helping me see the opportunities. Well, the Night Tokyo Giant, I really appreciate the message. And, you got to understand you're doing it for yourself. Like, if I gave you an idea on what it is that I was doing and you saw that for yourself and you took advantage of the opportunities that you see out there, and you are now bettering yourself because of it, dude, thank you. But that's you, man. You did that. Sometimes it just takes hearing a story from somebody else that says, yeah, man, that's the direction I want to go. I can do that for myself, because it all comes from a thought, right? Before you do it, you have to think it. That's all that comes. That's really, you don't get to do it unless you think about it first. So once you think about it, it's possible. Lisa Cook is attractive. I choose between her or Kamala. Okay, are we still back on that? I mean, it's kind of funny to troll a little bit, but we're pretty serious here on this channel. We want to take kind of things seriously. Great comment, Tokyo. Thanks for sharing the encouragement. Yeah, absolutely, all-nighter. I totally agree. All right. December options calls Amazon 300 strike. You will be rich by Amazon calls. Wonder if certain Mideast nations keep up war state to prevent lapse into luxuries. I've wondered that. I have absolutely wondered that if that's not the case for a lot of these nations out there. To keep the manufacturing state essentially productive enough for the people out there to have those average jobs and maintain those average jobs. But the moment that those average jobs elevates the people into a luxurious experience, the separation starts to happen. And by having a war effort, you can essentially prevent that from occurring. Hey, don't move into luxuries. We got wartime effort. Got to be patriotic. Use what it is that you need and don't use anything else. And this sort of idea could actually, kind of keep going, I guess. Because it is the move. It's the move into luxurious experience. So as long as you have a manufacturing state, and wartime is manufacturing, and you keep the people from moving into luxurious experiences, so essentially prevent them from going anywhere, then yeah, I think that could be a very realistic way for governments to try and control the idea of the Cantillon effect. Now, who knows what happened, but hold on one second here, guys. Oops. Infamous NYC had a super chat. Oh, okay. Thank you, all-nighter. I gotta go check it out. There we go. Thank you. Infamous NYC left a super chat. I really appreciate it. Thank you, all-nighter, for the message. I really appreciate you, bro. With your understanding of the direction of the economy is going, what business sector seems lucrative? I think honestly, if you are to think about what it is that's happening at this exact moment, I really think that the living assistance is probably going to be a big industry. Like there's going to be a lot of old people dying and they're going to need a lot of assistance because there's not like you think about it back in the day, people would have like 6 or 7 kids, right? And as the timeline has gone on, less and less kids are born to families. So there's less kids to take care of their parents. And if there's less kids to take care of the parents, or even no kids to take care of the parents, or even worse, they don't have a really good family tie, so they don't even want to take care of their parents, which I think that's probably going to end up being the case the further we go into the future, then there's going to be some need to take care of like somebody's going to need to take care of them, like they need to help. It's just like as you get older you can't do everything for yourself, and so the living assistance is probably going to be quite prevalent going into the future, as essentially all old people are going to need somebody to help them, you know and I would only assume that insurance and stuff is probably going to end up covering a lot of this stuff, and so it's going to be a big industry for people to try and take advantage of. And that would be like both on the good and bad side of things, take advantage of it because there's going to be opportunity there, but also take advantage of it because the opportunity's there, right? So to me that's probably going to be a big one. Okay. um Anything that has to do with conveniences for other people, like ride sharing and like having things delivered, or conveniences like instantaneous conveniences. I think that's going to become more prevalent into the future. Like one of the things I thought of, and you're seeing this like maybe in Japan or something like that. One of the issues that I'm having at the store is that we're having to lock up more and more stuff, right? So we have little locks and cabinets and different things for all the items that have high thievery things happening there, right? So all these items are getting locked up more and more. Before we never had locked up anything. And I'm noticing stores are doing this more and more too. So now you have to have somebody go and unlock the case to get it out. And I'm thinking, well, this is eventually going to end up being a vending machine, right? Because then it's locked up, and unless you actually buy the item, then you don't get to even touch the item. So I'm assuming that vending machine kind of application to retail is going to become more prevalent. And I could even foresee like having warehouses that have like wall to wall vending machines with all the things that you could ever possibly imagine, and then like one person essentially working to make sure that either it stays stocked, or that if there's any issues or whatever is happening. I kind of see that almost taking place to the point that the retail individual, like the retail clerk, will no longer be needed for anything out there. I mean, it's almost getting to that point now. You see, like, the self checkout stations and stuff like that. And outside of maybe answering a question when it comes to building supplies on how it is that somebody, maybe performs a particular task on their house, or ordering a particular, special order type of thing that needs some advice on what it is that they actually need. Outside of that, I really don't serve much of a purpose, right? Like a lot of the things that I order now are done through portals. So, I'm just clicking in, like click, click, I'm just filling in the little boxes and then hitting order. Essentially, the customer could do all that, right? I mean, I'm just like a middleman in between there, So if the customer could fill out all the details for what door they want, then why am I doing it? Well, essentially, I'm phasing away. I'm phasing out. This is just. I mean, there will be a time in which that I won't be doing this. The customer will be doing it, and there won't be any interaction between me and a customer at all. So I can really see that taking place. Like that's all going down right now. Um, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't know. Like you just kind of go with the flow of it, and there's like nothing you can really do. So if there's an industry, I think it would be to recognize either the shifting changes within your own industry, like I'm trying to recognize within mine, And then what is it that can be done in order to mitigate some of the problems that we're experiencing now? Much like, transferring, like, can you imagine like all the hardware and everything that you would need would be out of a vending machine? That would be so weird to think about. It's like that's very difficult to try and imagine. But it's not difficult to imagine all your hardware showing up on a box 24 hours after you have ordered it. Yeah. Like that's not too like there's a big warehouse that, you just click, 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 put in all the hardware, all the pieces you need, and then it just shows up to you. Right? Well, that's already happening. That could happen on a big scale too, right down to the 2x4s, the nails, all the brackets, everything that you would need. It can all be done in the same fashion. It's just a matter of time before we get there. All right. Guys, how late is it? 1:30? You guys want to call it quits? I mean, we got 200 people up in here. I mean, I guess we could stick it out for a little while longer. 201 people watching, 123 likes. Get it up to 150 likes in the next 5 minutes. That means everybody has to run out there and hit the like button right now. Get it out to 150 likes. We'll stick around for a little bit longer. I'll give you 5 minutes to get that done. All right. Instant gratification business noted. Well, instant gratification business. Yeah. I never really thought about it in that fashion, but I guess that would be a way to like think about the energy level of it. Yeah. Would be like an instant because people don't have time for patience anymore. Like their phone has screwed that up. There is no way that people are going to sit around waiting for something to happen. If it isn't happening in the next 20 seconds, then it's over. You'd never have another chance at it. So I could see where the vending machine could really be it, because it would be like instant, like that's it, that's it, that's it, and then it's instant ownership, right? As soon as it comes out of the machine, you own it, and you just like I could see like a store that way. Like if you have a basket of stuff, it's already proven that you paid for it because it came out of the machine, or else you wouldn't have it, and you can just walk right out the store with whatever it is that you purchased. Like security could be pretty low, and you just have to keep people from breaking the machines. And so like thievery would almost be non-existent. The retail cost, like I don't know how many people realize how expensive and how much loss takes place through thievery, and it all comes down to the people, the retail customer who pays for it all. Because even if you don't pay for it right now, you will be paying for it in the future as the increase in prices start to go up because of that theft. Yeah. And it's not just at the store. I mean, it's all the way going all the way through the supply chain. Yeah, this is perfect. I am really enjoying this. We'll get a membership soon. Yeah, you're going to really enjoy the membership, especially now with the changing in monetary policy. There's going to be a lot of speeches that come out talking about the different strategies that they're going to be using for this monetary policy. And we're going to break those things down. Now, I try to come out as regularly as I can with the members only, but I also want to come out and make them worthy to you. I just don't want to put out members only content just for the simple fact of putting it out there. I want it to be good, valid content. And generally, the speeches that I try to share with you is on monetary policy specifically, and not really like, I mean, sometimes I'll get into like the banking regulations and some of that other stuff so we have an idea of what it is, but I really try to focus in on monetary policy for you. There's plenty of member-only live streams that have great information within them. And for example, I'm going to go and make the video that I have linked in the description of this video that I'm doing. There's another YouTube video that I had done, months ago, talking about how it is that the Fed officials are essentially moved into the position of the FOMC. That's a great video. I'm going to leave it open for public viewing for the next 24 hours, but then I am going to make that a members only live stream because it is worth it, right? And you'll have to pay $1 for it after that. But well worth it. I mean, there's very few memberships out there that are only $1, $12 a year, $120 for a decade's worth of hardcore good information that you're really not going to get anywhere else. And you get to support the Uneducated Economist the entire time. So that's pretty cool too, right? For $1. Doesn't the sun ever go down in Oregon? Yeah, it's about ready to head down. What time is it? All right. 6 more, hit the like button. Yeah, you're 5 more away and you got like 30 seconds to get it done. All right. Productive delayed gratification, that is. Yeah, that's another way of looking at it. Buy cheese, not candy bars. Oh, somebody unliked. Oh, there we go. Okay, we got 146. You're 4 away. Got 15 seconds to get it done. Uh, 4 more. When the price of polka dots go up, cheese will be affordable and squirrels will be everywhere. Huh. I don't see joining the membership soon comment. I'm not sure. Hit it. Alrighty, guys, you came really close, but a bunch of you hit unlike. Nah, just kidding. You got to 148. Wasn't quite the 150 like we were shooting for the next 5 minutes, but it was a really good live stream. We were an hour and a half into this. We covered a lot of topics, and don't worry, we're going to be out here doing again very shortly. Think of your questions that you want to ask. Think of the comments that you want to bring up, and send me some ideas of what video suggestions you want me to cover into the future. You know, I just kind of go off of the things that I've been like thinking about and researching over the recent times. But ultimately, there is plenty of great video content out there that we could share with each other, and we can just bring it out here onto the live streams and really break that stuff down. I really appreciate everybody being here. You got it up to 155 likes. You did. You guys are awesome, but you didn't do it in the 5 minutes. So you came really, really close. I really appreciate it. You're all awesome. Good night, Manhattan. Jesus saves. You guys are awesome. David Cardone, we're at 150 now. I know, man. You're awesome. You guys really are. If you got one more question you want me to answer, then I'll do it. But the vending machines make me think of the Carl's Jr. vending machine in Idiocracy. Huh. I gotta watch that movie. I've never seen it. King of Babel. Yep, for sure. All right. I'm going to bed. You guys have a great night. Good night, Wayne. I'm heading there myself. Anything for you, Simon. You guys are awesome. Spam is salty. All right. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Share that link of that video with people who are questioning that. Like, how does the Fed officials make it to the FOMC? And I kind of stuttered through the video, but it doesn't matter. The information is there. And I left the links in the description of that video as well. So share that as much as you can over the next 24 hours. Get a bunch of people to watch that so they have a better understanding of what's going on with the FOMC. And then we're going to make that members only. All right. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know. Love you, bud. Peace. Yeah, same back to you, John.